Hello, everyone. I'm in Harlem once again at the Adam Clayton Powell Jr. building. And Dr. Umar Johnson is going to give us a quick word. I hope I can get a one-on-one with him because I have a few questions for him. Stay tuned. Hey guys, you're right in time for summertime. This is a special edition, between Ghana meets diaspora. And today we have here
Dr. Umar Ifatunde. Peace and love to my Ghana family. Can't wait to see you again.
Okay, so I researched a lot about you. I found out so much, and your story actually kind of inspires me, especially how you're all for your people.
Thank you very much. Reaching the young people is actually my mission. It's my priority. It's one of the reasons we're building the Frederick Douglas Marcus Garvey Academy. So it does my heart well to know that you follow my works and that you support those works.
Thank you. So because I'm a child, I like to go to the childhood, the root of how everything happened. So I learned that you're actually from Pennsylvania. So can you tell me how your childhood was there?
Yes, Pennsylvania, very traditional childhood. My parents was married for a little while. Then they divorced. I went to a public elementary school that provided us with a Black history class during the fourth and fifth grade, and that was my introduction into Black consciousness. And then in sixth grade, I went to my first family reunion, and that's where I found out I was related to Frederick Douglass, and the rest was history.
Ooh. Now, I want to speak on how you felt when you learned that you actually related to Frederick Douglass.
That's a good question. And the reason why I was overwhelmed with the knowledge, I remember walking through the back of a church, and there was a lot of Frederick Douglass memorabilia. There was a Bible, there was some clothing, there was a hat. And I asked my father, why is all this Frederick Douglass stuff here? And he said, because you're related to him. Now, ironically, the same family reunion in Baltimore, which is the city from which Frederick Douglass escaped to freedom, I almost drowned in the Days Inn Hotel swimming pool. And it was a snow bunny who saved me. So I'll never forget the family reunion.
Wow. All right. So besides that history lesson, who or what inspired you as a child?
My early motivations were Dr. King and Malcolm X. And then later on, I found the Honorable Marcus Messiah Garvey, and I just kept on finding ancestor after ancestor after ancestor. Even now, I'm still finding ancestors. I was in Guadeloupe, the island of Guadeloupe, about a month ago, and I learned about 3 new ancestors. One is Mother Solitude, a pregnant, enslaved African woman who fought against Napoleon's army when Napoleon re-implemented slavery on the island of Guadeloupe. She was there with one of the generals where they decided to blow themselves up, sacrifice their life to halt the advance of Napoleon's army against their resistance movement. They did not kill her. They waited until she gave birth, and right after she gave birth, they took her life. Another ancestor I learned of was General Inyas. He was one of the Guadeloupean revolutionary generals, and another one was I think it's Julio Delgres, another revolutionary general. And then when I was in Jamaica a couple weeks ago, up in the mountains with the Maroon community, I learned of a Cujo and Akapong. And then when I was in Barbados last weekend, I learned of the leader of another major slave revolt. So I'm still picking up ancestors even now as I go around the world.
That's crazy. And I think I like how you're picking up that stuff and learning how to, learning your ancestry. And I think that's really cool. So what does Pan-Africanism mean to you?
Pan-Africanism, Princess, if I were to sum it up into 3 points. Point number 1, all African people are members of one African family, right? No matter whether you're from Ghana, Nigeria, New York, Haiti, Jamaica, Brazil, one family. And we identify as African family first before anything else. The nationality don't come first. The ethnicity don't come first. The religion don't come first. The language don't come first. Being African comes first. It's the blood that makes us African. Number 2, As all Africans go, as Africa goes, so goes all African people. So we believe that we will never rise until Africa rises. It don't matter what we do, where we at, what strategy we employ. Until you have a strong international homeland, you'll never have strong diaspora. Number 3, self-determination. Whatever is to be done for African people must be done by African people with no non-African participation and no non-African money. It is for us to do it ourselves.
Why do you feel like that's so important for that?
Because we've done it every other way and we've consistently failed. We've consistently come up short. We have to understand that God gave us the ability to solve our problems on our own. And if we really want to make a standing in this world here and now as a respected race, we're going to have to learn how to struggle together, to die together, to live together, and to build together. We cannot keep on depending on Chinese, and we can't keep depending on Europeans to do for black people what we need to do for ourselves.
All right. So I remember one of your interviews, you stated that it's very crucial for us to liberate each other and to educate each other. Why do you find it that crucial?
African people are the most despised people on the planet. We are hated. There's a campaign to eliminate us right now. There's a campaign to make us landless right now. There's a campaign to transgenderize our children so we don't reproduce right now. We are under attack. We are already at war, but we don't recognize it. And one of the reasons we don't recognize it is we don't want to accept the responsibility and accountability that comes from taking responsibility for your own destiny.
Now that speaks a lot. I hope you viewers are listening, but there's more to come. So I learned that you're actually creating an academy called the Marcus Garvey and Frederick Douglas Academy. Frederick Douglass and Marcus Garvey Academy. And you were talking about making sure that they learn economic and financial science. Why do you think is that important?
In order to survive in this world, you have to be able to earn a living. You got to be able to pay your rent, pay your bills, buy food, take care of your children, enjoy your life. That takes some form of economics. Black people are not producers. We are consumers. And as long as we are consumers, we will be ignored, exploited, taken advantage of. We have to become producers so we can provide for each other what we need so we're not dependent on other people to provide it for us.
And I also learned that you were talking about we need to be more agriculturally self-sufficient. Why do you think it's also crucial for that?
Food is being used as a weapon by African people around the world. They're literally destroying the food, destroying the soil, populating the world with genetically modified organism. Even recently, the Food and Drug Administration approved genetically modified chickens. So if we are going to live, we got to be able to grow our own food. We got to be able to produce our own food. We got to be able to share our own food. Bill Gates right now is buying up as much of the arable farmland that he can in America to do what? Make sure we don't get any. They want to create a situation where the only way you eat is if the white man or Chinese man feeds you. And the food that they feed you is not going to be natural, it's not going to be organic, and it's not going to be nutritious. Black people got to get serious about agricultural science, because if we don't, it don't matter how much education you have, it don't matter how much money you have, it don't matter how comfortable you live. If you cannot get real food, you will die.
So is there a way for us to already take back our farms that they've already taken away? Like, is there a way for us to campaign against it and take back what we have?
Well, we have a lot of black farmers in America. We have a lot of black farmers in Africa, as you know. We have a lot of black farmers across the Caribbean. What we got to do is organize them. And we also have to support them. And we also have to create a distribution network for black farmers, because we have a lot of farmers who have produce, they have crop, but they can't distribute it to the African family. So we have to create a means of distribution so we can get those crops before they go bad.
I think that that's actually a good plan, and I hope a lot of people actually try to push it on, because if not, then all of our farms are going to be taken away, and I feel like that's not right. And I remember another thing that you said on one of your interviews is that for the reparations that we are supposed to get from the transatlantic trade, instead they're trying to give us it through money, and you said that money is never enough to give us the reparations. Why?
Money is a trap because the American dollar is not attached to a mineral equivalent. So it's not worth gold, it's not worth silver, it's not worth oil, it's not worth gas. It's just a promissory note. If you let somebody pay you for what we went through, the worst Holocaust in human history, the worst dehumanization campaign the world has ever seen, if you let them pay you with money that is worthless, That is an insult to your ancestors. We should be looking for land. We should be looking for resources. We should be looking for control of industry. We should be looking for business concessions. We should not be looking for money. If the reparations package is designed the way that it should, you should not have to ask for money because you should have all the resources and all the land that you need to make your own money. If you have to ask for money, something's wrong with your reparations package.
Yeah, I agree with that completely. And also, I want to know, before you began to be a Pan-Africanist, did you ever think of coming to Africa?
Yes, I just came back from Africa. I was in South Africa last week of May. I was also the guest of the Ethiopian government Department of Foreign Affairs. I was their keynote speaker for African Liberation Day. I'll be going to Cameroon in September. I'll be going to Nigeria in October. I'll be going to Eswatini in December. I'll be going to Ghana in November. So I'm always in Africa. Not as much as I would like to be, but I get back pretty regularly.
All right, so I want to talk about Ghana because that's where I live now. I mean, I moved from the Bronx all the way there. And I wanted to ask you, have you ever just started going around, like even here, because we like to indulge in different cultures, have you started tasting the different types of food? Have you started looking at their cultures and all that stuff?
Actually, I've probably been to Ghana more than any other African country.
Have?
Oh, yes. In fact, the last time I was in Africa prior to Ethiopia and South Africa, it was Ghana for the year of return, 2019. So I've been all over Ghana, going back in November. I love Ghana. I think Ghana is one of the African countries that has done the best job of keeping the cultural experience intact and relevant. So when people visit, they can touch that traditional culture. A lot of African countries, you can't touch it when you get there. Ghana, you can touch it. And I think that's why Ghana is so popular amongst African people in the diaspora. Thank you, Baba.
All right, so for those people that have not moved to Ghana, haven't really experienced Ghana, because a lot of my base are from the U.S., can you explain more about the culture and things like that?
Well, here's the thing. When people in America or the diaspora ask me where should they visit in Africa, I say anywhere. Ghana would be a recommendation. Kemet, obviously, because of the traditional culture there. South Africa because of the political resistance. Nigeria because of all of the dynamics involved. But really, they just have to come to Africa. Don't matter where you set your feet at. Home is home. And so for me, I just like people to go wherever they can go. So I've been to Liberia, Nigeria, Gambia, Togo, Benin, Ghana, Lesotho, South Africa, Malawi, Kenya, Morocco, Egypt, Ethiopia. I've probably been to about 17 countries by now, but I want to go to all of them before it's my time to join the ancestors, but I just think people really need to study the unique contribution they want to make to African society, so they choose the country that is most in alignment with what they want to do. So if you want to be a farmer, there's some countries that really need that. If you want to open some schools, there's some countries that really need that. If you want to be a logistics person, there's some countries that really need that. If you want to be IT, there's some countries that can really need that. Now, all the countries can use it, but there's some who need it more than others. So I always recommend that people do a little bit more research before they decide where they want to repatriate.
All right, so you mentioned about the schools. I want to know two questions. One for your Frederick Douglas and Marcus Garvey school. Why did you choose those two activists out of all the black activists in history?
In my opinion, Frederick Douglass was the greatest black leader of the 19th century in the Western Hemisphere. And the Honorable Marcus Garvey was the greatest black leader of the 20th century in the Western Hemisphere. Still further, I'm a blood relative to Frederick Douglass. He's a 4 times great-grand cousin of mine, and I'm former Minister of Education for Marcus Garvey's UNIA. And I think between Garvey and Douglass, you can get the full dichotomy of what black leadership is, all the diversity that exists within black leadership. Frederick Douglass being an integrationist, Marcus Garvey being a Pan-Africanist. There's so much to learn because between Douglass and Garvey falls every other leader that we've ever had. So I think that those two metaphorically, symbolically, and literally represent a very good place and foundation upon which we can teach our children what black leadership is all about.
Right, and because of that, I also want to know another thing. Do you decide to open up different schools in Africa? Because people in Africa also need to know this. So do you see yourself opening up that stuff in a few years' time or in 50 years?
Ultimately, I want to open up a Frederick Douglass Marcus Garvey Academy in every city, every state, every continent, every country, every town, every region, every neighborhood. My contribution to the Pan-African struggle is building for the first time a truly global Pan-Africanist school system globally. So you're in Ghana, Okay, if there's a child there who needs school and they move to New York, well, guess what? There's a FDMG New York. They move to Jamaica, there's a FDMG Jamaica. You move to Australia, there's a FDMG Australia. So my vision, my work, my task, my duty is to build this global Pan-African school system. We've never had that. Excuse me. We've never had that before, and that's what I want to do.
And why do you feel like it's so important to build that in every single neighborhood and so on?
Because if you only have one school, you're going to impact those children. But in order for the school to be a solution, we got to be able to impact all the children. You understand me? All the children got to be taught. And so that's why you can't stop at one school, two schools, or three schools. We have to systematize it. We have to franchise it. Not only that, until you change the way black people think, you don't change anything else about black people. And that's another reason why we are starting with education.
All right. So besides education, is there any other institutions that you want to put in to help black people?
Oh, absolutely. In addition to schools, we need our own banks to finance our people. We need hospitals to save our people. We need supermarkets to feed our people. And we also need manufacturing and distribution centers so we can employ our people and provide them with their basic needs.
So I remember on one of the Breakfast Club interviews you was talking about, you said that America makes a lot of money off of black people. How do we kind of prevent that from happening and also get our fair share?
We have to build our own institutions. The reason the black dollar doesn't circulate in the black community, we don't have the necessary institutions to trap that money in. You understand? So if I got $1 million in my pocket and I say I want to spend it all in Harlem, well, does Harlem have all of the businesses and services that I need to keep that black dollar within the black hands? Chances are it doesn't. So we have to get serious about institution building, because if we don't build institutions, we cannot trap the black dollar in our community.
Well, thank you so much for everything. And I'd like to say that this is one of my most intellectual interviews I've had. So thank you. I really appreciate it. And guys, this is the closing segment for Ghana Meets Diaspora. Catch you next time on Summertime. Bye.
Madase.
Great job. Great job.